This is Logitech's new Spotlight 2, and while it is not the type of thing that I normally review on this channel, I actually have a little bit of a history with presentation remotes like this. See, back in college, I was very heavily involved in different clubs and organizations, so much so that I was delivering weekly presentations before a typical audience of 50 plus people. Now, to make life easier at that time, I bought this Logitech's R400 presentation remote. Shockingly, mine still works to this day, and you can still purchase one of these for just $40. So this is going to be a little bit of a baseline for us. Back in the day, I used this remote like crazy. Then for about a decade after college, I was working in public accounting, in consulting, and in corporate technology. I delivered a ton of presentations as a result, including some at some very large conferences. So when Logitech reached out about some of their new products, including their new folding portable mice and this new presentation remote that they sent me, I was unnaturally excited to talk about something that is outside of my normal coverage areas, but somehow still aligned with my working and personal history. So before we jump into the complete details, who is this product for? It's obviously meant for people who deliver some type of slideshow presentations, either in person or actually remote as well. It's not cheap though, so it's for somebody who's willing to invest a little bit of money into making their presentations easier and hopefully also better. But it's still consumer grade, so it's not a true professional presentation tool. If you're delivering something on the scale of a TED Talk, you'll probably want to look elsewhere. Finally, there's the big one. This essentially requires Logitech's Options Plus software. So if you are not able to install it on the computer that's going to be running the presentation, for example, if you've got a corporate laptop that blocks third-party software, then you might as well just get a basic clicker, more like this one. Assuming that you can install the software though, this thing is pretty awesome. Jumping into those details, we'll start with the build and design. The body is made of aluminum with plastic buttons and plastic caps on the top and bottom. It's a great size to hold in hand or to toss into a pocket, though surprisingly, it doesn't come with any sort of sleeve or travel case, which is a little bit of a bummer. It weighs just 53 grams, so honestly, you will barely even notice that it is there during a long presentation. There are 4 colors available. This is the graphite color. There is also a black, which looks very similar. Finally, there is a sand and a light lilac. At the bottom, this is a removable Logi Bolt USB-C receiver, making this an easy plug-and-play option. Hidden inside the hole where the receiver is stored is a USB-C port for recharging as well. There are 3 physical buttons, 2 on the front and 1 on the side, plus there's a pressure-sensitive pad with haptic feedback at the top for use with Logitech's digital presentation tools. Now, unfortunately, even though this looks like it should function as a way to provide some sort of gesture controls, it's actually just a large button. The front-facing buttons are in a good logical spot and are pretty easy to use with either hand. The forward button is concave, being slightly indented, whereas the back button is convex or sticking out a little bit, allowing you to differentiate with touch in addition to by their location. The large button at the top, as I said, is pressure sensitive, meaning that you can press it soft or hard in order to access 2 different controls. It then uses haptics to make it a little bit more clear which is which. One of the big themes with this product seems to be an attempt to add in more control than the previous model while maintaining overall simplicity. Putting multiple features on a single button like this gives the sophisticated user the ability to make a more engaging presentation. The flip side of that, though, is that it could also create opportunities for some mistakes, which could lead to elevated nerves and potentially result in the presenter getting a little bit flustered. In addition to the top button, the side button also has some potential usability challenges. It's in a slightly awkward position, requiring some sort of manipulation of the remote in order to use it. Just like the top button, it also includes multiple functions, which could cause some additional problems, but we will talk more on that soon. One button that I think is missing here is a power button or a power switch. This remote is designed to be simple, so it automatically wakes up and reconnects when you press a button. My concern though is that it might turn on when I don't really want it to. If I toss this into a bag on the way to my presentation and it's already connected to my computer, it could actually wake my computer up. In testing, I was able to wake up a sleeping MacBook with just the remote connected on Bluetooth. Now, I would hate for someone to arrive at their presentation with a completely dead laptop because it got turned on in their bag accidentally. But theoretically, that could be possible here. This is another reason why an included travel case of some kind would have been ideal. So now let's talk about what these buttons do, starting with their functions if you simply plug this presenter into your computer and you do not download the software. The short answer is not much. The forward and back buttons work, and you can use the physical laser by pressing and holding the side button, but all of the more advanced features will be disabled. The big button on the front won't do anything at all. The small button on the side will just do the laser. This is why I said that you really need to be able to download the software to make this product worth it. Without it, you can just get the R400 for about a third of the price, or a no-name model on Amazon for even less. But okay, now let's talk about what features the software makes available. First, by pressing and holding lightly on the indented section at the top, you'll get a small amount of haptic feedback and activate the digital laser pointer. This uses a gyroscope in the Spotlight 2 to move the laser around on the screen as you move your hand. It tracks surprisingly well, but just keep in mind that anytime you release the button, the laser will stay right where you left it. Now that location does reset by default with each new slide, but if you use it more than once on the same slide, it will pick up wherever you left off. So if you leave it on the left side of the screen and then point to the right when you resume, it will track you relative to your starting position, but it will no longer feel in sync with where you're pointing. My advice is to simply let go, point to where the laser last was, and then resume. Now it will feel natural again and will avoid you having to point all over the room in order to get the pointer on the screen to be where you want it. If you do not like the digital laser, you can also set it to simply move your cursor around. If you pair that with this cursor control toggle, this actually, weirdly, becomes a functional mouse. This feature is technically designed so that you can click on a link in a presentation, which is useful for starting an embedded video or something like that. But you can also just move your mouse around your screen outside of a presentation, which means that if you really wanted, you could use this mouse, maybe while sitting on your couch with your computer hooked up to your TV. You obviously wouldn't have a keyboard and you wouldn't have a right click to access, but as long as you pre-saved your most important links and bookmarks, you could launch a streaming service, pick a show, kick back and relax. It would absolutely be very clunky and hard to use, but also pretty cool to have this be your remote. Next, you can press harder on that same button, which gets a slightly more intense haptic feedback and allows you to perform a different digital presentation action. By default, this is a spotlight feature, which dims everything around a circle on the screen. Another, called square light, lets you click and drag a spotlighted area. The third option is called magnify, which lets you zoom in on a hard to see location. And finally, the last option is annotate, which lets you write on the screen and will require a lot of practice in order to do anything useful at all. Across all of these options, you can change colors, sizes, set them to freeze when you release the press or just to disappear. There are a lot of different ways that you can set this remote up. You can also adjust the hard and soft press sensitivity and the intensity of the haptic feedback. For the side button, in addition to holding it for that physical laser, when you have the software installed, you can press it for another action as well. This is why I mentioned that it could potentially cause some issues, because by default, pressing this button will start or exit your presentation mode. So if you are attempting to use the physical laser, you could accidentally press instead of press and hold, which would then stop the presentation. For me at least, this would definitely throw off my rhythm in a presentation. If you are concerned about this, you can set pressing that button to just do nothing at all, which would eliminate the risk. Thankfully, the fact that it's in a slightly weird position means that it is less likely for this to happen by accident, but if you are using that physical laser a lot, then it could be a bigger problem. Alternatively, this button can be used to bring up a black screen if you need to focus your audience elsewhere for a moment. You can also set it to utilize a different keyboard shortcut or use Logitech's Smart Actions as well. Having this extra button on the side is useful, and it's an improvement over the original Spotlight, but I wish that they had gone a step further, adding a second button so that you could have had the start-end presentation and the black screen at the same time, both of which were available on my old model. Outside of normal buttons, there are a couple more things that the Options Plus software enables. If you've got a time-constrained presentation, like maybe an education setting with a set class length, this can be used to help you stay on task with a timer function. Now this will vibrate the same haptic engine inside at user-defined intervals to let you know how you're progressing, and then also to tell you when to wrap up. This allows you to stay on time without having to glance at your watch and without your audience knowing that you're getting notified. The only shortcoming here that I can think of is that I believe this is tied to your presentation being active. So if you're going in and out of PowerPoint, either by accidentally pressing that button, or if you're showing something else on your computer in between slides, the timer seems to reset. So it would not be effective if you're trying to time yourself overall while using multiple types of software. Finally, there is one more feature that is largely unnecessary in my opinion. However, unlike seemingly every other product being released these days, it is shockingly not an unnecessary AI-focused feature. In fact, there wasn't any mention of AI anywhere around this product, which was tremendously refreshing. Instead, this last feature is the ability to do a guided breathing exercise with your presentation remote. The idea is to calm your nerves before going out for your big presentation. To access it, you double tap the side button. If you have the software open, it will show you a visual to accompany it. But even without this window, you can run it and just use the vibration of the haptics without any visuals. It runs for just 4 breaths, so it's nice and short. And I do genuinely hope that someone out there uses this, gets relaxed, gets focused, and does really well on their presentation as a result. But personally, I'd rather seek that type of relaxation from something other than my presentation remote, but that's just me. So what does all of this look like from a usability perspective if you have the software installed? First, you can get calmed down and focused with a quick round of breathwork guided by the tool that you will already have in your hand. Next, you can smoothly move through your slides with these simple forward and back buttons. When you need to highlight a specific point, that digital laser makes it nice and easy and ensures that you'll be able to see it on screen no matter the lighting situation, and that it's visible to folks who might be joining virtually as well. If you need to make an even stronger point, you can use the Spotlight for specific areas on the screen. If something is relevant off screen, you've got the physical laser pointer to go that way as well. And finally, as your time limit approaches, a gentle vibration can remind you to wrap it up and maybe to prompt the audience if they have any questions. At its best, this is a pretty powerful tool with a feature set that is tough to beat. For connectivity, the included USB-C Logi Bolt receiver is definitely the easiest way to use the Spotlight 2. It's simple plug and play. And since the receiver is a standard Logi Bolt, you can also pair a keyboard and mouse so that you can bring a full travel setup with you and have it all connected instantly at once. If you instead want to use Bluetooth, you can press and hold the forward and back buttons simultaneously until the light begins blinking, then pair it to your computer as you would any other Bluetooth device. Once you have your remote connected, it has a 30-meter wireless range, which is about 100 feet, and that should provide plenty of flexibility to roam around your presentation room as needed. Though you could potentially run into that limit in a massive conference space, especially if the computer is somewhere off to the side or in the back of the room. The rechargeable battery gets 3 months of use on a single charge, so you shouldn't have to charge it often. If you happen to find your remote dead just moments before your presentation though, you are in luck because it only takes 1 minute of charging to get 3 hours of use. The only thing that's missing there is something to charge it with, since there is no charger or cable included in the box. Any USB-C cable will do for charging as long as it is narrow enough to fit into the slot. Most of the cables that I had lying around my office did fit, but not all of them. For compatibility, it works with Mac or Windows, both of which allow you to utilize those advanced features by downloading the Options Plus software. You can also use it on Android, iPad, or Chromebooks, but in those instances, you can't install the software, so you'll really only get the basic forward and back navigation. For different presentation software, typically the forward and back buttons will work universally, since it's really actually just accessing a left and right key command, which you can see in action here. As long as your software changes slides in that way, you should be good. Logitech's digital presentation tools, like the laser and the Spotlight feature, don't rely on the presentation software at all, so as long as you have Options Plus, those should work universally. The real differentiator, from my testing at least, is that side button. Even with Options Plus, things like starting a presentation may be a little bit hit or miss depending on what software you use. It works great with PowerPoint, as expected. It also works with Google Slides, though you may need to grant your browser some extra permissions. Finally, I tried it with a Canva presentation, which it was not able to start by default, but which I was able to get working by changing the mapping to the Canva-specific keyboard shortcut. If you use any other type of presentation software, you'll probably have a similar experience, though I didn't test any others personally. For pricing, the Spotlight 2 retails for $130. That's a $10 price increase over the previous Spotlight model, and it is easily one of the most expensive consumer-focused presentation remotes around. It definitely has a lot to offer, from the build to the gyroscope technology inside, but you'll have to decide whether those things are worth the money for you. If you'd like to learn more about some alternative options, Logitech has a few different models of presenters. These 3 cheap models all let you move through slides and have a physical laser attached. My old model, the R400, is very simple and works exclusively with a USB-A receiver. The R800 adds an on-device timer and has a green laser instead of red. The R500S adds in the option of Bluetooth if you don't want to use a physical receiver. If you just need something basic or you can't install a Logitech software, any of these will really do the job. For something a little bit more comparable, the original Spotlight model represents a huge step up in price, as it was the first one to have the more advanced digital laser and the highlighting system. This means that it has the same software dependency as the Spotlight 2, but it's even more restricted because it also lacks that physical laser as a backup. On the positive side, it still has haptics for timers, and you can use Bluetooth or the USB-A receiver. The Spotlight 2 is the first and only Logitech model to give you dual digital and physical lasers, plus the USB-C receiver rather than USB-A. It also adds in that additional side button and the dual force button on top to give you additional simultaneous access to features beyond what the original Spotlight can offer. Now, outside of Logitech, there's basically 2 different directions that you can go: super cheap and professional grade. Based on my research on the professional grade, all roads seem to lead to a company called Dsan, though there might be some other similar brands as well. They have pretty ugly, expensive clickers, but they are apparently incredibly reliable. So if you've got a presentation that simply cannot have technical difficulties, this is probably the way to go, although I am not a professional AV person, so maybe talk to one of those if you're a little uncertain. If, on the other hand, you just want something to advance slides, and if it happens to fail, no worries, I'll just walk over to the computer or prompt someone else that's in the room to click the button whenever you need it, then just about anything will do. But here is one that seems to come recommended by some people on Reddit, which seems like a very cheap yet somewhat solid option. I will link to this one as well as the Amazon bestseller list in case you want to shop around for something just really cheap and basic. Since this isn't an area that I typically review products, I don't have any first-hand experience with these, but if you've got one that you swear by, feel free to leave it in the comments so that people can see. To wrap up with our differentiators and deal breakers, the Spotlight 2 has a premium look and feel, which is elegant and professional. It is much nicer than a basic plastic clicker like my old Logitech model. The presentation capabilities are excellent. Having that physical laser is an important fallback for in-person meetings. The digital laser, though, is great for in-person, for hybrid meetings, or even for presenting when you're working from home as well. Though do note that a lot of Logitech mice can do the digital lasers and Spotlight features these days too, as long as they've got some sort of bonus button that you can dedicate to it. The haptic feedback on here is very cool, and it's a nice way to differentiate the presses of the big top button. The ability to have timers with those haptics as well is also helpful. Finally, the battery life is solid with quick charging and actually user replaceable battery packs as well, which is great to see. Lately, Logitech has been getting a lot better about making their batteries accessible, probably thanks to recent EU legislation, so thank you, EU. For potential deal breakers, the software dependency means that it is not worth buying this unless you can download Options Plus, unless you just really like the form factor. I wish it had one additional button on the side and also a proper on-off button. There's no protective sleeve or carrying case, which is a bit of a bummer for something this nice and expensive. There's potential usability challenges, such as mixing up the soft and hard press on the front, or accidentally ending your presentation on the side. Finally, the pricing is very high when you consider how cheap the most basic type of presentation remotes can be. As a college kid, I would have loved the chance to take full advantage of all of these cool features week in and week out. As a professional, this could have provided me a genuine value during large, high-stakes presentations, and it would have added the ability to attract people's focus when I was doing training sessions where getting the message across was paramount. Now, as a YouTuber, I don't think I'm going to have that many opportunities to use this, which is a little bit of a bummer. So I guess this is my time to officially make myself available for speaking gigs. Email me if a former CPA turned software implementer turned YouTuber is of interest. Thank you so much for watching. There's affiliate links in the video description. I'll see you in the next one.